Hi and welcome to today's recap of the Blitz tournament, which was won by Grandmaster Gata Kamsky. A very impressive result for many reasons, because uh, let me remind you that Kamsky in the Rapid tournament only scored 1 point out of 7, so one may have thought that Kamsky was better at classical chess, or maybe too old for short time controls, or that he would not manage to come back psychologically after starting 1 out of 7. But Kamsky not only played excellent chess in the classical tournament so far, but now he bounced back winning the Blitz tournament, which is even shorter than the Rapid tournament as a time control, and won the tournament with clear first and 8.5 points out of 14. The second place, so let me actually show you the rankings. The second place was shared by Abdusatorov, Kamer, and Salem, all with 8 points, very decent results, +2. The leader of the tournament, Gukesh, scored 7.5, and Esipenko and Le Quang, who were respectively third and second, scored 7 points, so 50%. Only one player scored less than 50%. This is Arkady Nadic. He scored only 2 points out of 14, and I would say this is a very, very tough result for him, because you would never imagine how many winning or drawing positions he just lost on the last move, making an incredible blunder. He's probably quite upset right now. I mean, I don't know, or maybe he thinks it's Blitz, it's okay, everything is fine. But he could really have scored so many more points. But anyway, this is Blitz, and this is pretty unusual that 7 players out of 8 scored 50% or more, and that only one of them scored less than 50%. This day is actually a good one for Gukesh, although he only finished 5th, because his two main rivals in the general rankings were Le Quang and Esipenko, and he scored half a point more than them. So this is just increasing his lead. So let's have a look at the general rankings. Gukesh is still leading with 24 points. Le Quang is still second with 22 points. Esipenko is still third with 21.5 points. So Gukesh is still in a quite comfortable position. Let me remind that Gukesh is only 16-year-old, so that's an amazing achievement. The main difference between today's ranking and yesterday's ranking is that Salem is now very close to the leader after his great performance in the Blitz tournament, and he has 20.5 points. That really means that everything can go either way in just one game. I mean, we have 4 classical games left. Each victory brings 4 points to the winner, so basically any of these 4 could be the new leader tomorrow. Let's now have a look at a few games. So after a few recordings, I now remember that I have to change the scene before I start discussing the games. I'm very proud of myself that I finally did it. So, for example, this is round 1 between Le Quang and Nadic. So Le Quang, who is second in the general rankings, Nadic, who finished last in the Rapid, was also last in the general rankings. But again, this is a game that could have gone either way. Here, White should have played King B7 with the same idea as in the game, to play King C6 and target the D6 pawn. And look what happened in the game. King B6 was played instead. Black played E4 because he thought pushing this E pawn is a priority. But after King C6, now with E3, unfortunately I can't play the moves myself. White will take on D6 with check and then block the pawn with bishop F4, and White is going to win the game. So black tried to defend with bishop f4, but now the bishop comes back to defend, and the a pawn is just too fast. e1 queen takes, and a6, a7, and game over. But it may not have caught anyone's attention, but king b6 was a horrific blunder. King b7 was winning, because if king d7, then a4, a5, and whenever black takes on a5, you take with the bishop and you defend against the e pawn. But after king b6, at black played king d7, then the e pawn would have been completely unstoppable. And if a4, a5, black just takes it, and most probably can just queen his e pawn, but can also take the bishop on c7. So after king d7, black would win a crucial tempo and the game. I mean, between king b7 and king b6, the evaluation goes from +10 to -10. This is just a terrible blunder which remained unpunished, but this is blitz. I mean, look, the players at 21 seconds, 14 seconds. Obviously, everything can happen. This is the beauty of blitz, but this can be, of course, very painful. I mean, in that case, this is, of course, very painful for Arkady, for example. In the second game, let's have a look at Gukesh Abdusattorov. So Gukesh, who anyway is in the lead, but was pretty safe in that position. I mean, already since a few moves. I mean, black was just trying to give a perpetual check because it clearly has compensation for the pawn, but white did not seem to be under a threat of losing, but suddenly he has to be careful, and with just 5 seconds on the clock, he played bishop to d8, and after queen e3 followed by knight g3, this is a mate in 2. This is not often that you see a 2700 player getting mated in 2 moves. But again, that is the beauty of blitz. And it is even more impressive that despite this game, Gukesh is anyway the very clear leader of the tournament so far. So let's have a look. Round 4. So that was a game against Gukesh. And again, Nadic. So Nadic was playing with the white pieces against Gukesh. He decided to trade queens, and he has a rook and 2 pawns for 2 bishops. The position is not so clear here. The bishop escapes, and if black manages to consolidate everything as he did with the bishop on c4, pawn on a6, then black is no longer in any danger, I would say. But in that position, had black not unblocked the bishop a8 and had played the simple move rook b1 with the idea of playing rook b8, then the bishop on a8 would simply be lost. Rook b1 and game over, basically. So this is again a game that could have gone into Nadic's direction very easily. So I'm checking my phone at the same time because I made a list of these games which I wanted to show you. I mean, in the same, in the following game, round 5, so Kamer against Nadic. For once, it was Nadic who had a little bit of luck, because in that position, white was completely winning. All he had to do was to protect the c4 knight, but instead of going to c2, for example, he went to d1 and just blundered the piece in one move. And there is no queen d8 check, because the black queen just goes to g8, and suddenly it is black who is winning. So that's one game between Vincent Kamer and Arkady Nadic. That's a game that, contrarily to the previous one, should probably have gone not in Nadic's direction, but in the other one. But I would say that fortunately it did not, because he would really not deserve to score 1 out of 14. That would be really painful. Okay, let me continue with my list. So in the same round, because I was not a commentator today, but I was, of course, following the tournament very closely. Of course, I'm showing As I said, I'm showing these blunders just to do something different as I did other days, showing brilliant games every day. Today I decided to do something different. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone, you know. I mean, I am a chess player myself, and I can tell you that this kind of blunders in Blitz I did hundreds. So everything is normal. So the game AC Penko against Le Quang, so quite an important game between the second and the third players in the rankings. In that Rocken game, White was completely winning here. All he had to do was to bring the king to f4 or f3 and catch the c pawn with the king. Then the a pawn is too strong, the black king is completely cut, and White has an easy win. But instead, White decided to play this move, which looks very good, because it is threatening a7, which wins at once, and it is threatening f6 check, followed by rook g8 mate. And black did not react properly, just played h6, and after takes and a7, of course, black can resign. But actually, after rook c8, all black had to do was to give a check on g4, give a couple of checks until the black king goes, let's say, to f4, or actually, if it goes to f4 is enough, and then rook a2. And there is no checkmate anymore, because f6, king g6, the king will escape to h5, and suddenly that would be a dead draw. Just check and rook a2 next. So rook c8, which looked very nice, is actually a terrible blunder. That game could have ended in a draw. So let's move to round 8 with again the kind of just to show you why such a fantastic player like Nedic scored so poorly today. Again, that position, I mean, White was under some slight pressure, but here Nedic played queen f7 and allowed rook takes g2 and check king h8. And if you take the rook on g2, it's rook d1 and checkmate to follow. So it's again a game that Nedic threw away by blundering and unnecessarily, even if in the final position he started to be in some kind of pressure, but in that game he was normally not really in danger against Le Quang. And if you start blundering like that in every game, of course in the end you do not score too many points, especially against these young players who are really ready to jump on every of your blunders. Same round, Gukesh against Kamer. So a game that was won by Gukesh as White. Rook g1, bishop takes e3, the queen moved, and now g6 is under attack, the bishop on c3 is under attack, White is just completely winning. But if instead black played bishop to d4, just attacking the rook on g1, black would be White would have to resign basically. So that's a game, I mean, that I would say was a slightly lucky win for Gukesh. I mean, a game that again was decided only on this 29th move, bishop takes e3, which is a very big blunder. In round 9, again, a game where Nedic was absolutely not in danger with the black pieces. He could just capture on d2, he could make a draw, then go capture the e5 pawn. I mean, this game is just heading towards a draw. And Nedic tried to win with rook a1, and suddenly after knight b3, he cannot defend both the rook and the bishop. And if bishop takes f4, for example, there is knight takes a1, stopping the c pawn. Everything is falling apart in the black position in just one move, from a position where black was absolutely not in danger. In the same round, Salem Le Quang White had played a fantastic game. I mean, here he has a completely winning position with bishop pair, a very weak black king. For example, if queen h5, it's just game over. But instead he decided to take, but after knight g6, which he may have missed or underestimated, I don't know. Suddenly, I mean, white can take on g6, but after pawn takes, queen takes, king h8, there is nothing more than a draw. And actually here white is still is lucky that he still has a perpetual check. But there were so many, I mean, here white would be much better after so many moves, but for example, queen h5 would be a very easy move to play. But after bishop takes g5, the evaluation drops from plus a lot to 0-0. So we're in round 9, let's go to round 12. Another game by Arkady Neidich, where, I mean, look what happened when you're really in bad shape in a blitz tournament. This is a move that Neidich would play one game out of 1,000. I mean, in this position, white is more than fine. He's probably even slightly better. Neidich went to g6 with his knight, and actually after rook f6, the knight is trapped. White could have given a check on d8, but king h7, and it doesn't change anything. So I don't know what Neidich missed, but the knight is trapped on g6, and white can resign. In the same round, in the game Lequang against Esipenko, so again an important game for the general standings. Something incredible happened as well, that here white was completely winning with an extra pawn on a6, a dominating king on e5. So all white has to do is to either target the kingside pawns or to queen the a pawn. White decided to queen the a pawn by giving a check and then another check, followed by bishop f3, except that the knight on c8 was just hanging. Black could have taken it. Bishop takes c8, and black wins. So that was, I mean, we're heading towards the end of the tournament, so the blunders are becoming bigger and bigger because players are getting more tired every game. Round 13. Kamsky against Neidich. I mean, look at this again. Neidich was completely fine here. I mean, white has an extra pawn, but black has a bishop pair. He is not fearing knight takes e6 because then it will be opposite colored bishops and it will be a dead draw. But Neidich decided to play here, and suddenly after bishop d5, he cannot defend both his rook and his bishop. Until the end, he probably missed that the bishop was hanging. Well, no, he played bishop f5. But here he just resigned because now the endgame is just hopeless. The king will go to c4, b5, or to d5, c6. This is just completely over. I mean, definitely the move bishop d5 was missed by black, and this is another half a point that goes away for Neidich. Around 14. I mean, when it doesn't work, when it doesn't want to work, it doesn't want to work. I mean, here again, Neidich is doing completely fine. He just decided to capture on. I mean, here there is no queen a1 threat because white can just cover with queen c1. But after white took on f7, now queen a1 is just a background checkmate. I mean, such a strong player like Neidich should really be exhausted by his tournament. At least the blitz tournament of today, to blunder such a thing. I mean, I've rarely seen Grandmaster Neidich blunder in such a way. So now you understand why I said that he definitely could have scored a lot more. In the game Salem Gukesh, which was also important for the general standings, Gukesh was actually very close to win. Here he could have played, for example, h3, with the idea, if gh3, to go rook c1, threatening mate. If white has to take on e4 and black stays with many extra pawns, instead he played this move, which looks extremely natural, just attacking another pawn. But suddenly, white is giving checks, and white has enough counterplay for a draw. Black has to give a perpetual check, and he cannot do anything more, because white is also threatening to give checks, and is actually even threatening checkmate. For example, rook fc7, then knight e6, and then rook c8 or rook b8. So here again, it's a game where the evaluation dropped from like -10 to 0-0 after rook g3. And finally, a last one to finish this recap. So today there were many games, many more than usual. 14 rounds, 4 games, that's 56 games. That's why we've seen so many. Kemer Esipenko, a game that was going, I think, very, very well for black. Black was just completely winning. Material is equal. The king on g3 is pretty terrible. Black can just play something like bishop d4. He has an extra pawn, a big attack. This is just going terrible for white, but instead black just played something and forgot that the bishop is hanging, and white won the game. That was round 14. We saw 3 games for round 14. That's the only round where we saw so many huge blunders, just one move blunders, and that's normal because 14 games of blitz is fun to watch from your home, but it's very tough for the players. Believe me, I've played this triathlon a few years ago, and I can tell you that 14 blitz games against 7 such strong opponents can be very tiring, and especially when it goes wrong, then these people have no pity. They're going to collect every point they can against you. So thank you for watching this recap, and I'll see you sometime in the next days.